The episodes where SG-1 comes back and does things on Earth are kind of few and far between in the overall show, but I like it when they do happen because it generally allows us to have a greater insight into the actual characters of the SG-1 team as opposed to the mission that they're on or the overarching like Planet of the Week or the fight. In this case, we're still in the early season, so it's the Goa'uld as the main threat. Later on, it becomes the AI robot things. I don't remember what they're called. But for now, we're firmly in the Goa'uld timeline. But this episode is when they go through and they arrive on a desert planet and they find a bunch of broken crystals. And as they're exploring around, Jack kind of goes off on his own, finds one of the only unbroken crystals, and when he touches it, it blasts him back, knocks him unconscious, and then we see a figure suddenly come up out of nowhere and stand over him, looking down at him. And then when the camera pans around, we see a duplicate of O'Neill. And this duplicate goes back with the SG-1 team and um, is not speaking much, but no one notices anything, immediately out of place. He's just being distant. Sam finds him looking through old photos and his scrapbook in the locker where he's looking at a picture of his wife and his dead son. And this is where we get a little bit of insight into the fact that Jack has never talked about this with anybody. And Daniel knows because he was there during the first Stargate mission. But Sam doesn't know any of this stuff, so she gets this sort of educational overview with Daniel about how Jack doesn't talk about these things. This is what happened to Jack's son. This is what happened to Jack's wife. And then we see this clone of O'Neill going off and showing up at his ex-wife's house, confused as to where is Charlie? Where's Charlie? Where's our son? Where's and he's very confused. He's basically sifting through these memories that he's coming across in his head. And of course, the ex-wife is very upset with him, but ultimately, feels, sympathy because he appears to be vulnerable and his emotions are out, which is something that the real Jack had never really done before. And so there is a very emotional, like I was getting teary-eyed by the end of this episode. This is a very emotionally driven um, uh, non-action episode, and it just, I think for me, was great to see RDA doing some dramatic work in this one. Ultimately, we come to find out that the people who were on this planet, these beings of energy, were attacked by the Goa'uld years ago. Their defense mechanism, was they could, when they're touched, they kill. They killed a Goa'uld when they were touched, and then the Goa'uld destroyed all the crystals, and all that was left was this one. And it came through and touched Jack, realized it had done harm to Jack, wanted to fix that harm, then realized that there was a greater injury inside of him, which was the loss of Charlie. And so the being was on planet Earth trying to find Charlie to bring Charlie back to Jack to heal that wound, only to realize that he wasn't going to be able to do that because Charlie didn't actually exist anymore. In the middle of all of this, Jack comes back through the Stargate, having woken up, going, "Where the hell did everybody go, and why did you leave me?" And then they realize that there's another Jack running loose somewhere on the planet, and he's made of this energy, which is in our atmosphere and on our planet, and away from its own environment, deteriorating rapidly and leaving radiation behind, and could potentially harm people, which leads to everybody rushing to this local hospital where he's been interred, and Jack, the real Jack, meets up with his wife, and they have a very touching moment. Um, and as we meet this creature, this being, as it is slowly passing away, it shapeshifts into the form of Charlie, Jack's son. The wife witnesses this and realizes that this mention of a Stargate must be real, and that this creature isn't actually her son, but it gives her this emotional, charge. And then she and Jack hug, and this is the kicker here, where they, we really were good together, she says, and then he goes, "We were the best." And they have this heartfelt moment of hugging and sort of, it's a very intimate moment between these two adults who have moved on with their separate lives, looking back fondly upon the time that they shared together, but ultimately realizing that it is over. It's for them. They parted because of a traumatic event, and there's no going back for either one of them. But they also have the maturity to recognize that they still have a great love for each other, even if it's not the need, the need to be, together anymore. Great episode, very powerful emotionally, a great insight into, I think, just Jack's character more than anything else. But also, there's a moment in here where Teal'c, in his downtime, is watching the television and he sees all these traumatic things happening on planet Earth, riots, and he sees a like heavy metal music video, and he just is like, your planet is very strange. And there's a moment when they're going off to the hospital and he's taking his staff with him. And the general's like, you can't take your staff weapon. And Teal's like, I've seen your planet. I will need it. It's just like, it's sometimes hard to remember that Teal'c has been literally his only existence on Earth is within the Cheyenne Mountain facility. He has had no um, contact with the planet itself yet. I don't think he's actually gone out for pizza yet, so hopefully we'll see that happen in the near future. Anyway, great episode. Can't wait for the next one. Stay tuned as we continue our rewatch of the entire Stargate franchise between now and whenever the Amazon show comes out. This is not a small project. It's going to be taking place over the next year or so, so follow along, check out the previous episodes, and we'll see everybody in the next one.